The quantum lab hummed with energy as James Carter made final adjustments to his experimental setup. At 25, he was the youngest lead researcher at the Berkeley Quantum Research Center, known for his unconventional approaches to solving seemingly impossible problems. The soft blue glow of the quantum containment field cast strange shadows across his focused face as he checked the readings one final time. Another late night, Dr. Carter. The familiar voice of his research assistant, Sarah Chen, broke through his concentration. She stood in the doorway, tablet in hand, her usual professional demeanor tinged with concern. "Just need to verify these quantum entanglement readings," James replied, not looking up from his work. "I think we're close to a breakthrough on stable long-distance quantum communication." The lab's emergency lights suddenly flashed red, and the quantum containment field flickered. James's head snapped up as his instruments began registering unprecedented energy signatures. The air itself seemed to crackle with electricity. "That's impossible," he muttered, eyes widening at the readings. "These energy patterns, they're nothing like anything we've ever seen." The space in the center of the lab began to distort, twisting like a reflection in troubled water. James instinctively stepped in front of Sarah as a perfect sphere of swirling energy materialized 6 feet off the ground. The sphere expanded, and through it stepped 3 figures that defied human comprehension. The first was tall and elegant, with crystalline skin that seemed to capture and reflect light in impossible ways. Beside it stood 2 others, one with flowing tentacles that moved with geometric precision, and another whose form seemed to shift between states of matter with each breath. Dr. James Carter. The crystalline being spoke, its voice resonating directly in their minds. "I am High Ambassador Xylix of the Galactic Concordat. We come with news that will change the course of your life and the fate of humanity." James felt his scientific skepticism warring with the undeniable evidence before him. "I'm listening," he managed to say, his voice steadier than he felt. 17 of your Earth years ago, Emperor Vexthor of the Galactic Concordat made a secret pact with your world's governments. In exchange for protecting Earth from hostile forces during its development, the Emperor would name a human successor if he died without an heir. The ambassador's crystalline form pulsed with soft light as it spoke. 3 days ago, Emperor Vexthor passed away in battle. His genetic scan revealed no viable heirs within the Concordat species. James's mind raced. What does this have to do with me? The Emperor's final decree activated an ancient scanning protocol. It searched all protected worlds for beings whose quantum cognitive patterns matched the Imperial requirements. Dr. Carter, out of 7 trillion sentient beings in the known galaxy, you alone matched all criteria. Sarah gasped beside him, but James stood frozen, processing the implications. The ambassador continued, "You are hereby named heir to the Galactic Concordat. This includes all Imperial authorities, responsibilities, and," there was a slight pause, "traditional obligations." "Traditional obligations?" James asked, a sense of foreboding creeping into his voice. "Yes, including the inheritance of the Emperor's wife, Empress Serena. According to our laws, the Imperial bond must be maintained for stability." The ambassador's form flickered slightly. "The Empress has expressed strong opinions about this arrangement." James ran a hand through his dark hair, his scientist's mind already cataloging the impossibilities being presented to him. "So you're telling me that I'm suddenly supposed to be Emperor of the galaxy, and I've inherited someone's wife in the process? This has to be a joke." "The situation is quite serious, Dr. Carter. Without acceptance of full Imperial authority, including the marriage bond, the Concordat will fragment. Billions will die in the resulting power vacuum." The ambassador's form pulsed with urgent patterns. "You have exactly 1 Earth hour to decide. Accept and you will begin your training immediately. Refuse, and we must trigger the Concordat's dissolution protocols." James looked around his lab, at the quantum experiments he'd devoted his life to, at Sarah's shocked face, at the impossible beings waiting for his answer. His mind raced through probabilities, possibilities, and potential consequences. He thought about the responsibility being thrust upon him, the lives hanging in the balance, and the seemingly impossible task of leading an interstellar civilization. But most of all, he thought about the woman he was supposed to marry, someone who apparently didn't want anything to do with him, someone who was now part of a package deal that could save or doom billions of lives. Before I answered, he said carefully, "Tell me about Empress Serena." The ambassador's crystalline form shimmered. "The Empress is formidable. She has led our military forces for 3 centuries, is a master of quantum temporal strategy, and is considered one of the most dangerous beings in the known galaxy. She is also," the ambassador's mental voice carried a note of what might have been anxiety, "extremely opposed to being handed over like property," her words, "to a primitive species." James couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of it all. Here he was, a quantum physicist who had never even been in a serious relationship, being told he had to marry an ancient, powerful, and apparently angry alien empress to save the galaxy. "If I accept," he said slowly, "I want one condition." The ambassador's form pulsed with surprise. "You are in no position to make conditions, Dr. Carter." "Maybe not," James agreed, "but if you're right about me matching these imperial requirements, then you need me as much as I need to prevent galactic war. My condition is simple. I want time to get to know Empress Serena as a person before any formal bonding. If we're going to run a galaxy together, we should at least try to understand each other." The 3 aliens conferred in rapid pulses of light and energy. Finally, the ambassador turned back to him. "The Empress has agreed to a period of acclimation. But be warned, Dr. Carter, she is not known for her patience." James took a deep breath, looking one last time at his lab, his life's work, and the familiar world he was about to leave behind. "Then I accept." As the quantum field in the lab began to pulse with unprecedented energy, preparing for their departure, James couldn't help but wonder what he was getting himself into. He was about to meet a woman who could probably kill him with a thought, who was being forced to accept him as her husband, and who apparently thought his entire species was primitive. At least it would be interesting. The Imperial Palace was nothing like James had imagined. Instead of solid structures, it existed in a state of quantum flux, its crystalline walls shifting and flowing like liquid mathematics. His quarters, assigned to him upon arrival, seemed to reshape themselves according to his subconscious desires, a fact that both fascinated and unnerved him. James stood before a mirror-like surface that rippled with every movement, adjusting the ceremonial robes that had been provided for his first formal meeting with Empress Serena. The fabric seemed alive, responding to his body temperature and movements with subtle color changes that reflected his emotional state. "Your quantum patterns indicate elevated stress levels, Herr Emperor," observed Kirks, his assigned advisor. The being's form was a complex arrangement of geometric shapes that shifted with each word. Perhaps a moment of meditation would be beneficial. "I'm about to meet a woman who's been forced to accept me as her husband and who probably wants to throw me out an airlock," James replied dryly. "Stress seems like a reasonable response." A soft chime resonated through the chamber, signaling it was time. James took a deep breath and followed Kirks through corridors that seemed to bend space itself. They emerged into a vast chamber that defied Euclidean geometry, its ceiling a swirling map of the galaxy they were meant to govern together. And there she was. Empress Serena stood at the chamber's center, and James's first thought was that the ambassador's warnings hadn't done her justice. She was tall, nearly 7 feet, with skin that seemed to contain galaxies. Her form was humanoid but clearly alien, moving with a fluid grace that suggested complete mastery over every molecule of her being. But it was her eyes that caught and held his attention. They were pools of swirling quantum probability, containing wisdom and power accumulated over centuries. "So," she said, her voice carrying harmonics that made the air vibrate, "this is the primitive who would presume to rule beside me." Her gaze swept over him with clinical detachment. At least you understand quantum mechanics, even if your grasp of it is elementary. James straightened his shoulders. Your Majesty, he said, choosing his words carefully, I don't presume anything. I'm here because circumstances have forced both our hands. But since we're stuck with each other, perhaps we could start with a conversation, rather than assumptions about primitives. A ripple of shock went through the assembled advisors. Kirk's geometric form briefly destabilized. But James kept his eyes on Serena, watching as something that might have been surprise flickered across her celestial features. You dare speak to me with such familiarity? She asked, but James detected a note of curiosity beneath the stern tone. I dare to speak to you as one sentient being to another, he replied. You've had 3 centuries to learn about power and governance. I've had 3 days to adjust to the fact that aliens exist and I'm supposed to help rule them. Maybe we could meet somewhere in the middle. Serena's form shifted, cosmic patterns swirling faster across her skin. She descended from her position and moved toward him with predatory grace. The advisors backed away, but James held his ground. She stopped mere inches from him, her quantum eyes boring into his. You are either very brave or very foolish, she said softly. Perhaps both. Tell me, James Carter, what makes you think you're worthy of the imperial mantle? I don't, he answered honestly, but I am worthy of being heard, and I have ideas that might surprise you. Before she could respond, alarms blared through the chamber. The galactic map above them flared red in several sectors, and urgent messages began flooding in through quantum channels. James could somehow understand them now, a gift of the imperial protocols already changing his brain. Multiple separatist factions have launched coordinated attacks, an advisor reported. They're targeting key quantum communication hubs. 15 systems have already gone dark. Serena's attention immediately shifted to the crisis, her form radiating command. Deploy the quantum fleet. We must stabilize. Wait, James interrupted, his scientist's mind racing as he studied the attack pattern. Look at the quantum signature of these attacks. They're not just targeting communication hubs, they're creating a cascading quantum entanglement failure. If you deploy ships through quantum space now, they'll be trapped. Serena's eyes snapped back to him. Explain. James pointed to the map, his quantum physics background kicking in. See these energy patterns. They're using the communication hubs to create a quantum lockout field. It's like, imagine trying to walk through a door while someone on the other side is sealing it shut. We need to stabilize the quantum field first, or any ships we send will be stuck in a probability loop. There was a moment of tense silence as Serena studied the patterns. You understand quantum mechanics better than you let on, she said finally. What do you propose? We can use the quantum entanglement of the Imperial Palace itself, James said, his mind racing ahead. If we modulate its frequency to counter the attacker's pattern, we could create a stable corridor through quantum space. Serena finished, her eyes lighting up with comprehension. Kirk's, begin the modulation. Coordinate with the Emperor. For the next several hours, James worked alongside Serena and her advisors, applying his theoretical knowledge to practical quantum warfare. His fresh perspective combined with their experience proved remarkably effective. One by one, the red zones on the map began to stabilize. As the crisis subsided, James became aware of Serena watching him with an unreadable expression. You are not what I expected, she said finally. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? He asked, attempting a smile. That remains to be seen, she replied, but there was less hostility in her tone. You will join me for the emergency council session. We have much to discuss about these attacks and other matters. As they walked together toward the council chambers, James couldn't help but feel that something had shifted between them. It wasn't acceptance, not yet, but perhaps it was the beginning of understanding. What neither of them noticed was the shadow that flickered through the quantum corridors behind them, carrying news to hidden forces that their plan had failed, and that the human hair might be more dangerous than anyone had anticipated. The Imperial Council chamber was in chaos. Quantum holograms of representatives from 1,000 worlds flickered and pulsed with agitation as they argued over the recent attacks. James sat beside Serena on crystalline thrones that seemed to float in space, observing the debate with growing concern. "The human brings instability," declared Ambassador Vox of the Centaurian Collective, his energy form crackling with displeasure. "These attacks are merely the beginning. We demand a return to traditional succession." "And who would you suggest?" Serena's voice cut through the chamber like a quantum blade. "The imperial requirements were absolute. Would you rather see the Concordat shattered?" James leaned forward, his voice calm but carrying unexpected authority. "Representatives of the Concordat, I understand your concerns. I'm an outsider, unknown to you, thrust into power by circumstances none of us could have predicted. But consider this. Perhaps that's exactly what the Concordat needs right now." The chamber fell silent, all attention focusing on him. Even Serena turned to watch with interest. "For millennia, you've approached problems the same way, bound by traditions and expectations. But the universe is changing. Those who attacked us proved that by finding weaknesses in systems you thought impregnable. Maybe it's time for a new perspective." James stood, and to his surprise, the imperial robes responded, causing patterns of light to dance across the chamber. "I've spent the last week studying your quantum technology, your political systems, your history. Humanity may be young, but we've learned to adapt, to see patterns others miss, because we haven't had centuries to become set in our ways." He gestured to the galactic map hovering above them. "The attackers used quantum mechanics in a way you never expected because they fought like outsiders. I spotted it because I was one. Imagine what we could achieve if we combined your experience with humanity's fresh perspective." A low murmur ran through the chamber. James felt Serena's quantum eyes studying him with newfound intensity. "Pretty words," sneered Vox, "but words don't protect borders or maintain order." "No," James agreed, "actions do. Which is why I propose a complete overhaul of the Concordat's quantum defense network, not to replace what exists, but to enhance it using principles that combine your quantum technology with Earth's theoretical physics." He waved his hand, and to his own surprise, the galactic map responded, showing his proposed modifications. "See these intersection points? By applying quantum uncertainty principles in a way your systems never considered, we can create a defense network that doesn't just react to attacks, it anticipates them." The chamber erupted in discussion as representatives analyzed his proposal. James became aware of Serena standing beside him, her presence both intimidating and oddly reassuring. "You continue to surprise, James Carter," she said quietly. "Though you've also made some powerful enemies today." Before he could respond, an alarm shrieked through the quantum network. The galactic map flared red, but this time the pattern was different, concentrated and precise. "Multiple quantum breaches detected in the Arturo sector," reported a defense coordinator. They're targeting Earth." James's blood ran cold. The map showed a massive fleet emerging from quantum space near his home planet. Earth's primitive defenses would be useless against such advanced technology. "This is what comes of trusting a primitive species," Vox declared triumphantly. Now his world will pay the price for his arrogance. But James was already moving, his mind racing through quantum calculations. "Serena," he said urgently, "I need your help. Remember how we modulated the palace's quantum field during the first attack? If we apply the same principle on a larger scale, we could create a quantum shield around Earth," she finished, her eyes widening. "But the power requirements would be enormous. Unless we use Earth's moon as a quantum amplifier," James said. "Its mass and orbital position are perfect for creating a resonance field." For a moment, Serena stared at him, and James feared she would refuse. Then her form shifted, taking on a battle aspect he hadn't seen before. "Council is adjourned," she announced. The Emperor and I have a planet to defend." They raced through quantum corridors toward the Imperial Defense Center, their steps perfectly synchronized. "You said the Emperor," James noted as they ran. "Yes," Serena replied, a hint of amusement in her quantum harmonics. "It seems you're full of surprises, my unexpected husband. Now let's show these attackers why the Imperial requirements chose you." As they burst into the defense center, James couldn't help but smile. He was about to defend Earth using alien quantum technology, standing beside a woman who had gone from wanting him dead to calling him husband, all while revolutionizing galactic defense systems. But unknown to them both, in the shadows of quantum space, the true architect of these attacks watched with growing interest. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. The human was proving even more adaptable than expected. Soon, it would be time for the next phase. The Imperial Defense Center hummed with quantum energy as James and Serena worked in perfect synchronization. Their minds, enhanced by Imperial protocols, flowed through the quantum network as they prepared Earth's defense. Lunar quantum resonance at 60%, James reported, his consciousness spanning the vast distance between the Imperial Palace and Earth's moon. "We need more power to establish a stable field." Serena's form pulsed with concentrated energy as she channeled power through the quantum network. "The attacking fleet will reach Earth's orbit in 3 minutes. We won't have enough time to achieve full resonance. Then we'll have to try something unconventional," James said, a plan forming in his mind. "What if we don't try to shield the whole planet at once? What if we turn Earth's magnetic field into a quantum lens?" Serena's quantum eyes widened as she grasped his intention. "Use the planet's natural defenses to amplify our quantum shield. It's never been attempted at this scale. Earth has survived for billions of years because of its magnetic field," James explained, his hands dancing over quantum controls. "If we can synchronize our shield with its natural frequency." A warning blared through the quantum network. The enemy fleet had begun its attack, launching quantum-tipped weapons designed to shatter planetary defenses. James closed his eyes, reaching out through the quantum field to feel Earth's magnetic resonance. Years of quantum research had taught him to recognize patterns, to see connections others might miss. Now, with his consciousness expanded by Imperial technology, he could feel his home planet's protective field like a living thing. "Serena," he called out, "I need you to trust me. When I give the signal, channel everything you have into the lunar quantum array." She moved closer, her form synchronizing with his in the quantum field. "I trusted you the moment you faced the Council without fear," she said. "Show them why I was right." The first wave of weapons hit Earth's atmosphere. James waited, feeling the planet's magnetic field flex and strain. The timing had to be perfect. "Now," he commanded. Serena released a torrent of quantum energy through their combined connection. James caught it, shaped it, and wove it into Earth's magnetic field. The planet's natural defenses amplified the quantum shield exponentially, creating a cascading effect that spread across the globe. The attacking weapons hit the enhanced field and shattered, their quantum matrices disrupted by the unprecedented combination of natural and artificial defenses. The enemy fleet, caught off guard by the innovative defense, fell into disarray. But something wasn't right. James sensed a pattern in the chaos, a deliberate structure to what should have been a desperate attack. "Serena," he said urgently, "this isn't just an attack, it's a test. They're probing our defenses, analyzing how we respond." Before she could respond, a new presence entered the quantum network. It felt ancient, vast, and terrifyingly familiar. "Well done, young one," a voice resonated through their minds. "You exceed all expectations." The quantum field rippled, and a figure materialized in the defense center. James gasped as he recognized the crystalline form of Emperor Vexthor, supposedly dead, yet very much alive. "My Emperor." Serena's voice held shock and confusion. "How is this possible?" Vexthor's form shimmered with what might have been pride. "Did you think I would leave the fate of the Concordat to chance? Every test, every attack, every challenge, all designed to prove whether my chosen heir was worthy. James stood protectively next to Serena, his mind racing. You orchestrated all of this. The succession crisis, the attacks, threatening Earth. I needed to be certain, Vexthor explained. The Concordat faces challenges unlike any in its history. We needed a leader who could think differently, who could see patterns others miss, who could unite tradition with innovation. His crystalline form turned to Serena. And we needed an empress who could grow beyond her own prejudices to recognize true worth. The imperial requirements, James realized. They weren't just scanning for compatibility. They were looking for someone who could bring change without destroying what made the Concordat strong. Indeed, Vexthor moved closer, his form radiating approval. You've proven yourself beyond my hopes, James Carter. You defended your world not through brute force, but by understanding and enhancing its natural strengths. You've gained the respect of the Council not through authority, but through innovation. And most importantly, he glanced at Serena, you've shown that differences can become strengths when approached with wisdom and respect. Serena's form shifted, a complex mix of emotions playing across her quantum features. You knew, she said to Vexthor. You knew I would resist, that I would challenge him. Of course, the former emperor replied. Just as I knew that when you finally accepted him, it would be because he earned your respect, not because tradition demanded it. James felt Serena's quantum field intertwine with his, no longer just for defense, but in genuine partnership. So what happens now? He asked. Vexthor's form began to fade. Now you take the Concordat into a new age. Together. The threats we face are real, even if these tests were controlled. The galaxy needs leaders who can think beyond the conventional, who can find strength in diversity, who can forge new paths while honoring old wisdom. His voice grew distant. I leave the Concordat in capable hands. As Vexthor's presence faded from the quantum network, James and Serena stood in silence, processing all that had occurred. Finally, Serena turned to him, her quantum eyes holding a new light. It seems, my husband, that we have much work to do, she said, extending her hand. James took it, feeling their quantum fields harmonize perfectly. Together, he agreed, as reports began flowing in from across the galaxy, demanding the attention of their new imperial partnership. 1 year after Vexthor's revelation, the imperial palace had transformed. Where once it existed in rigid quantum states, now it flowed with an organic harmony that reflected its new leadership. James stood at the observation deck, watching Earth rotate peacefully below, its quantum shield now a permanent protection integrated perfectly with its natural defenses. Lost in thought again, my quantum theorist. Serena's voice carried warmth that would have been unimaginable a year ago. She moved to stand beside him, her quantum form synchronized naturally with his presence. Just appreciating how much has changed, James replied, turning to face his wife. Their relationship had evolved from political necessity to deep partnership, their differences becoming their greatest strength. The Council meets in an hour to discuss the expansion of the educational exchange program. Serena's form shimmered with approval. Ah yes, your initiative to bring human scientists together with our quantum masters. I must admit, watching Dr. Chen explain Earth physics to Master Vexilleur last week was entertaining. James smiled, remembering how his former research assistant had fearlessly debated quantum theory with one of the Concordat's eldest scholars. The resulting breakthrough in quantum gravitational mechanics had advanced their understanding by decades. The old guard is finally starting to see why Vexthor chose this path, he said. Combining human creativity with Concordat wisdom has solved problems that neither civilization could handle alone. A soft chime interrupted them. A priority message through the quantum network. James accessed it with a thought, his human mind now completely comfortable with the alien technology. The Andromeda expedition team has reported back, he announced, excitement coloring his voice. The quantum bridge prototype works. We can establish stable communications with other galaxies." Serena moved closer, her quantum field intertwining with his as they reviewed the data together. "Your theory about using dark matter as a quantum conduit was brilliant," she said, "though I still think it was reckless to test it yourself." Says the woman who personally led the defense fleet against the Nexus swarm, James teased. The memory of watching Serena coordinate 1,000 ships through quantum space still took his breath away. "We make quite a pair of reckless leaders." Indeed. Serena's form shifted into what James had come to recognize as her amused state, though I believe the Council prefers the term innovative. Their comfortable moment was interrupted by Kirk's, whose geometric form appeared through a quantum portal. "Your Majesties, we've received a priority request from the Earth Science Coalition. They believe they found something in the Antarctic quantum readings." James straightened, instantly alert. They'd discovered unusual quantum signatures beneath Earth's ice sheets months ago, but the readings had been too erratic to analyze properly. "Show us." A holographic display materialized, showing complex data patterns that made both rulers' eyes widen. "These energy signatures," Serena said slowly, "they're similar to the ancient archives on Centauri Prime." "Not similar," James corrected, his scientist's mind racing ahead. "They're complementary. Earth wasn't just a protected world. It was part of something bigger." He turned to his wife, seeing the same excitement in her quantum eyes that he felt. What if the ancients left more than just the imperial requirements? What if they left a roadmap for the next stage of galactic evolution? And they needed both our peoples to be ready to find it. Serena finished. "Your human intuition combined with our quantum understanding." Kirk's geometric form pulsed with urgency. "The Council is assembling early to discuss these findings. They're calling for an immediate joint expedition." James and Serena shared a look that spoke volumes. This was why Vexthor had engineered their union, not just to leave the Concordat, but to prepare for discoveries that would reshape their understanding of the universe itself. "Tell the Council we'll be there shortly," Serena commanded. As Kirk's disappeared, she turned to James. "Ready to make history again, my unexpected husband." James took her hand, marveling at how natural it felt now to bridge the gap between their species. "With you, always." As they walked together toward the council chambers, James reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From a quantum physicist thrust into an impossible situation to a true partner in leading the galaxy's most powerful civilization. From an unwanted human heir to a husband who had earned not just acceptance, but love from a being he once thought could never understand him. The imperial palace shifted around them, its quantum structure responding to their combined presence. Ahead lay new mysteries, new challenges, and new opportunities to prove that the greatest achievements come not from clinging to tradition or rushing blindly forward, but from finding the perfect balance between wisdom and innovation, between experience and fresh perspective, between two beings who had learned to see strength in their differences. "You know," James said as they approached the council chambers, "when I made that birthday wish a year ago, I just wanted something interesting to happen in my life." Serena's laugh resonated through the quantum field like music. "Be careful what you wish for, my love. Something tells me our next adventure is just beginning." The doors to the council chamber opened, revealing the assembled representatives of 1,000 worlds waiting to hear about the discovery that could change everything. James and Serena entered together, their steps perfectly matched, ready to lead the Concordat into whatever wonders or challenges awaited them. After all, they had rewritten the rules of what was possible once before. Who better to do it again?